Welcome to Office Hours. Today is March 17th, and we're here to talk about SEO and trying not to say the word like between every other word, which we're not going to
No,
be able not to
I
do.
will 100% fail at that.
Like who would blame you?
I don't even realize I do it anymore.
Me either. Yeah.
Well, since that won't be a success, because I think it's going to be like really hard to do that.
Yeah.
What are some other successes you're experiencing this week?
I had one.
Okay, go for it.
And which David knows about. So one of my biggest focuses is working with Google My Business. So I guess it's still, this is SEO, so not exactly the on-site stuff.
Yeah.
But I was looking at the Google map and found a glitch where service area businesses like myself, we don't have a specific location. Google is putting the street view on, and they're not supposed to be doing that. And so there was a write-up in Search Engine Roundtable, and they noted that I was the one that picked up on that. So the next big thing is hoping that Google resolves it quickly. Because I actually even have a client that's waiting to enter her. She's just got her business of getting it on Google, and she's got her code in the mail from Google, and is holding off on entering it because she doesn't want there to be that chance that it comes up.
Yep.
Oh, that's how that happened?
I'm sorry?
That's because I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, that's okay.
But I meant to ask you about that because I registered my business through Google My Business, I thought months ago, but I recently looked back and it wasn't finished. So I finished it and they sent me the code, but when I went to put the code in, it wouldn't take my code.
So the codes are only good for a certain time. And if you've made edits after you requested it, it's not going to be good. You need to request a new one. So once you request it, don't touch it.
Okay.
That's
so
the thing. People have a tendency, they go in, they request a code, and then like, let me make it pretty and fix it all up. Mm-mm. So
you can change it once you enter the code.
Once you get the code, yeah. But the problem is when you make edits after you've requested it, but before you put the code in, that invalidates your code. So that's the thing. I've got one, and I'm a little bit concerned. I brought it to their attention Friday, and here it is Wednesday, and it has not been resolved. And that's a privacy and security issue. So I'm really hoping that it gets resolved soon.
Yeah.
So I know.
Yeah.
Because especially with Google being so adamant that service area business don't reflect their address. And so it's maps, it's the way the two are working together. But they're obviously both Google products, so So that was my big.
That's a great win. Now you just need to ask Rusty to give you a link to your site.
I sent a message out. I haven't heard back, and I'm not sure when. After looking at all the different stuff, it looks like they really reference Twitter.
Yeah,
so I kind of
there's
doubt.
A reason, they don't want to give links out. Yeah,
I probably doubt they will, but I asked.
You can ask. Doesn't hurt to ask.
Exactly. I figured I'll ask and see what happens. So.
Yeah, that's great. Well, any other success stories? If you don't have success stories, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you another question.
No.
I got to better think of a success story, or I have to answer a question too. I'd say a success is I'm starting to put transcripts of all the videos of these videos on the website with the hopes, kind of like we talked about when we talked about podcasting, of picking up extra traffic from Google as people do searches for the kind of the topics we talk about. And then hopefully people can find the fact that we've spoken about an issue that they've had as well. Also, the hope is that the website, the Curious Ants website, can become a search repository. So you can enter in a search for, hey, when did we talk about podcasting? And great, now it's going to be able to come up. So if you're like, oh, I remember we talked about podcasting, but I don't remember when. And now you can use the search bar to kind of find our conversation a little bit better. because I feel like we're talking a lot of great things here.
Mhm.
It's just hard to keep track of all the things we talk about, and this will hopefully become more of a repository
Mhm.
for all of our conversations. So can I call that a success?
Sure.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Now I've gotten freed. So if you don't have a success, how is studying for Google Analytics coming?
Stressful.
Stressful?
Yeah, because it's a lot, and I'm trying.
Mhm.
I guess, yeah, it's a lot. Like watching the videos, then when you go to the read further, it's more within more. So it's a lot. Like I spent like 4 hours studying yesterday. It's like,
Well, I take hope because all that studying is going to help you get your certification. Your
Yeah.
certification, you're learning how valuable that certification is, right?
Yeah.
Now you see when someone has it, they've clearly studied.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you can
I'm
use that to
learning. It's
brag.
wanting it to sink in
Yeah.
and remember everything.
Well, and I feel like the more you put into this, the more helpful you're going to be able to be to your clients. Because
Yeah,
you're gonna-
absolutely.
some of the clients I work with, it's really surprising for as large as they are, how little they understand their own website analytics.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's the thing that's keeping me going.
good,
How
keep
helpful it
going.
would
It's
be.
going to be worth it.
Well, I've got one that a site that is hoping I'm launching soon for a client, and they just had it. I'm rebuilding it, but they had it built about a year ago. No Google Analytics, not indexed, no Google Search Console. So it. I mean, and to me, that should be on the checklist for the person launching the site.
Yep.
I have it on mine. So.
Yep. Well, I don't know if you recall from me speaking at WordCamps, I begged developers to just add Google Analytics to client sites because sometimes developers think, oh, that's not my scope. It's not within my scope. I'm not doing marketing. And I'm said, please
just
provide value to your clients.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah. Because, the client may say, well, I've got my website and then I need to wait a few months before I can do the next step or whatever that is. And so at least if you've got it, it's collecting the data, so that you've got that past history and putting it on there and at least just getting Google to collect the data.
If you as a developer are proud of what you're delivering because you think it's offering value, and even if the client says, I don't want tracking, you're going to want to have that data so you can show the value you really are providing. I mean, if you are not proud of your website, fine. As a developer, fine, just don't give tracking. But if you think you're delivering a product, give the client something to help them see it so that, they're going to be grateful for it later, even if they don't know the value for it now.
Yeah.
And besides, there's all kinds of great development things you can discover by having it on. So if you need to go to them and say, hey, there's a bunch of 404 errors, we can fix it. There's all kinds of reasons why.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, Allie, putting you on the spot.
I had
Okay,
a
no,
lot of
it's your
wins.
birthday, so we can give you a pass. How's that?
Yeah, I had a lot of wins this week, but they were really not SEO related. So I guess that doesn't really count in this meeting.
We will celebrate with you.
Yeah.
Okay, like our new billing software rolled out, and
I know that's been taking a ton of time of yours.
we do a lottery at our company where you can nominate people who are doing a good job, and a ton of people nominated me for how well I've been doing the billing. And then I just put together a detailed training for our staff on how to use it using iMovie, which I have never used before, combining screenshots and directions and doing voiceovers. And it came out really well. And that was a win for me because I was really uncomfortable using. I had never navigated iMovie before. I was a little uncomfortable, scripting and doing that voiceover, but really trying to make it as easy as possible for our staff to be able to navigate this new website and this new application that we're using. And so far the feedback has been really good. So
That's super. That's
Nice.
super. Congratulations.
Yeah,
I know that's
especially to
been
have
weighing on you
everybody
for a
there,
while.
so many people nominate you. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So I'm excited.
Congratulations.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I got so excited about having my information recognized on the article that I forgot to mention that since last week I did launch my new website,
Awesome.
Good.
which was huge. Everything else kind of, I don't know how I forgot that. And my analytics show it as well.
Good. How are you seeing it in your analytics?
So I basically, well, I have to look at, I'm looking at mine now. So, it spiked up from, let me look at the last month. It did a spike from 2 or 3 users a day up to there was 40 and 50 one day, and then it says users 198 for the month.
So now, how did you get those users?
I have to go and look back at all my.
There you go.
my
Yeah,
stuff.
see,
Yeah.
because it may be whatever you did to get those users, you could keep doing.
Yeah, well, I sent an email out. I did my
Right.
weekly email, so I announced it. So that was kind of my last Thursday morning. I announced that that my website was live, and so I got a couple of good emails back. Oh, I didn't know you do this.
Awesome.
There
And
you go.
then a couple of things back about my white label service, and so I got emails for that. And then I had an email from a client that I had in the past, but after COVID kind of slowed some things down and called back wanting to bump some things up. So
There you go. That's great.
yeah.
And they're all trackable goals off Google Analytics, right? That's the next step. Great job.
Yes, that's on my next step.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
Getting
do
it live was a big enough.
that's true. I don't mean to poop on your parade.
No, I know.
So yeah, the transcriber is going to have a fun with time with that one.
Yeah, because it's
Hi,
usually
transcriber.
rain on your parade.
Oh, I like poop on your parade better.
I do too.
So no one said this was safe for work.
Mhm.
What questions do we want to tackle today about SEO? I didn't have any submitted questions, so we can start tackling some impromptu questions.
I have a question about, because I was just before class looking at my Google Analytics because my site just launched.
Right.
And I have a little question about the 3 views. And so I have the raw data, the test, and the backup.
Right. So that's
Okay,
a best
so
practice. Yep.
Okay, and so the raw data, and I still have to rename it. I think it says all data, but just so I understand that's raw data, I'll probably rename it. And so that one I just did raw, and I think it was set up originally and not touched. Now, the test and backup, those 2 were recently added. So the way now that I've learned views, because at first I was like, oh no, it said 0. What happened before? And I'm like, oh yeah, the view does not show historical data.
Right.
So I learned that from the IQ, the Google thing.
Good.
Okay. So I answered that question. When I went in and looked, so my raw data does not have the check mark next to exclude bots or anything like that, but the test and backup do. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah. So time out. There should be 3 views. Raw is your backup. Test and master. Just because raw is kind of the unadulterated, never changed, always there. So it serves as your backup.
Okay.
Okay. the testing is when you want to apply filters and make sure it works. And then there's the master, which is the one you use all the time.
Okay, so I think maybe I just named them and we're thinking of them wrong.
Yeah, so
Okay,
maybe you want
so-
to use your raw, unless you have filters set, maybe raw becomes master. And
Mm-mm.
then
Raw.
backup stays backup, or you can rename it raw.
Okay, so I guess my first question on like the little check mark on the bots and everything. So on my raw backup data, that should not be checked, correct? Or should it be?
That's a really good question. I would not do it.
Okay, that's how mine's not. And so this is
Just
that.
so you can weed some things out. But then again,
Uh-huh.
that means your raw data will be inflated by bots.
Yeah, yeah.
So then you might go ahead and just check it so that the raw data, I guess what's most important is that you know what the raw data means.
Okay.
So that if you go back later and you're like trying to troubleshoot and because the whole point of having the raw or the backup data is if something goes wrong,
Mm-hmm.
like a filter goes wrong, then you have that data. So as long as you remember what it means.
Okay.
So, the other side might be, well, go ahead and check it. So all three have it checked. And so you're comparing apples and apples. Right?
Well, okay. So I'm wondering, I'm thinking, okay.
So
Should
I
do-
jumped to a conclusion and said, don't, but then now I'm reconsidering and saying you might as well.
Okay.
So that's just
Well,
super
I'm
confusing.
wondering if I should copy that one and check it on the new one and say, this is the original raw that just is like everything. And this is the raw without the bots. Just in
I think
case.
that's too confusing. I
Okay.
would stick with 3,
Okay.
a master view, which is what you use all the time, a testing, which you would use when you need to test, and then a raw or backup, whatever you want to call it, which is never touched unless of emergency where you need data.
Okay, so you're saying my raw backup never touched should have that checked on the bots because mine does not.
I don't think there's a should or a shouldn't, but so you can compare things apples to apples, go ahead and check it on all 3. That way, when you go into your raw data, if you need to go, it's not, because the bots, there's a lot of bots going around.
Yeah.
It's not just that spam bot we talked about a couple weeks ago. There's all bots
Yeah.
all the time.
Okay.
If you go into your raw and you don't have it checked, it's going to suddenly be a lot more. And you're going to be like, well, there's all this traffic, and you're going to forget, oh, I forgot to check. I didn't check that. So that will at least means that all 3 views are excluding bots, so that when you go in, if you have to use that later, you won't be struggling on why is it so much more, and thinking,
Yeah.
oh, and then finally remembering, oh yeah, I didn't check that. Like I could just see that being a problem in the future,
Yeah,
because it would be
Okay.
significantly inflated with all that bot traffic
with
that
the bot. Okay.
the others.
Okay.
So I guess I'm backtracking on what I said and say, yeah, go ahead and check that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will check that. And it was checked in the other 2, so that's fine. And that was kind of my thing. I was confused about what to use, but now that you said, I think I was confusing my backup and master, like the terminology. So I've got my raw / backup, which I will check the bot as to exclude it. And then the other 2, my test and my master is what I use.
Yeah, and in
Okay.
fact, test you'd only use when
For
you are
filter.
going to apply a filter.
To apply filters. Okay.
Right.
So like you would use it, apply filters, and then so if I like the filter and it's giving what I think is correct data, then I can apply that to the master and
Yes.
then leave the test like that so that it matches the master.
That kind of doesn't matter. I would typically leave the test filter in the test, so that when I add another filter,
That it would,
it starts to see how
Show.
they interact.
okay,
Because for instance, you remember in the Google Analytics course, the filters are applied in order in which they appear. So
Yes.
if you do a filter later you might want to have that other filter in there so that when it gets applied in the master view after you validated the data, you can again, nothing
It's doing the
unanticipated
same work.
happens,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that I would suggest that for most of us, filters are not something we're going to do on a regular basis.
That sounded like something I probably wasn't gonna do a lot with. My biggest thing is doing my goals, and I do have my thank you pages set up after they sign up for like my freebie, and then after purchase, I have to go put those into Google Analytics.
Pro tip, while you're doing that,
Mhm.
make sure you go into your Yoast section of the page
Mhm.
and select no index of that page, of the
I
confirmation
already did
page.
that.
There you
Like the
go.
thank you pages.
Yes.
I did that.
So
So I have no indexed my two thank you pages, and if I have others, I did no index my privacy and my cookie policy page. Just
Sure.
because I figured, there's nothing on there worth me want, So I think
Yeah.
those were all the ones I know indexed.
Right.
Okay.
So one of the things Yoast does really, really well is if you no index it, it also removes it from the sitemap
Okay.
automatically.
Now, I need, that's something I need to look at. My sitemap. See, like if this were a client's page, this would evolve into like.
Cowboy's kid has no shoes. We never
Yes,
apply our own
yes.
best practices to our own site.
So the sitemap, I know, I think Yoast does that, but then I have to, does it pick it up, or do I then need to go into Google Search Console and submit it?
Great question.
I
So
can't remember.
in Curious Ants, there is what's called the definitive guide to XML sitemaps.
Uh-huh.
You might check that.
Okay.
One of the best practices for sitemaps is to make sure you add it inside your robots.txt file. There's a particular syntax you use to tell the bots who visit your robots.txt file where to find your XML sitemap.
Okay.
This is important because, number one, every time Google visits your site, it always checks robots.txt. So it will discover your XML sitemap. Two, sometimes systems use unconventional names for XML sitemaps, such as Yoast. The sitemap URL is not sitemap.xml. So no one could theoretically guess at what it might be, and it would have a harder time discovering it unless you submit it through Google. So Yoast will tell you the URL for your XML sitemap.
Mm-hmm.
Look up the syntax. I think it's simply sitemap, one word, space, your URL for your sitemap. Add that to the end of your robots.txt file. And then every time Google visits your site, they will know where your XML sitemap is.
Okay.
I would go ahead and submit it through Search Console.
Okay. Okay.
Just
Okay.
to make sure.
Yeah.
But that will offer you several advantages. Number one, Google will quickly find all the pages of your site, because the other thing Google does every time it visits your site, it looks at the robots.txt and it looks at your XML sitemap. It does not crawl every page of your site, but it will look at your XML sitemap to see what pages are different.
Okay.
And it will check those out. So if you've updated a bunch of stuff, it will help Google find them quicker.
Which I have updated a ton of stuff now.
Great.
Okay.
And then that's good. But the other advantage of submitting your XML sitemap to Google is that you can go into Search Console and you can say, it will tell you how it found the page. Did it find it through the XML sitemap? You can then also look at all the pages on your site compared by your XML sitemap. So you can kind of start to see, how is Google discovering this? Are there pages that are somehow orphaned from your XML sitemap, which might be a problem?
Okay.
XML sitemaps aren't a panacea. I'd even suggest most websites don't need one, but it sure is a nice to have just to make sure.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
most websites are less than a few hundred pages. And so at that point, you don't really need an XML sitemap. But why make it hard for Google to crawl your site?
Yeah, I don't want to have Google work too hard for it.
Yeah, make it easy for Google. Like, there you go. And it's so easy, especially if it's done automatically and maintained automatically, like the Yoast plugin does for you. Great, then you're done.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's why I'm used to Yoast and like using it. So I was able to go in. I'm glad I remembered not to index those thank you pages and all that. And then I should I no index my 404 page I made?
No,
No?
it will
Okay.
automatically be no index because it is at 404.
Okay, I got it.
So Google won't index it, but we also don't want to send like 2-minute contradictory signals to Google.
Okay.
So being a 404, it's going to treat it different. If it's a 404 that's a no index, then Google's going to be like, I don't know which one you want me to do.
Okay.
And we want Google to know it's a 404, so don't do both.
Okay. Okay, good. What asked them.
Great questions. These are real technical SEO stuff, but
Yeah, that's
but it's
yeah.
I discovered recently a client of mine's site had been sending contradictory messages to Google through the canonical tag and the no index.
Mhm.
And so Google was like, I don't know what you want me to do with this page, but so I'm going to do nothing with this page.
And that's not what they wanted.
No, it wasn't what we wanted. We wanted Google to use the canonical tag. And so they were overzealous and they did canonical and no index so that we didn't benefit from the canonical tag. And it was a problem. But they have tens of thousands of pages on their site. So it was a significant issue.
Cool.
A lot of pages.
Okay.
Super question.
Yes, I'll have to look at my analytics and see what other questions I have.
All right. Well, any other questions we can think of? Allie, we were talking last week about the idea of what to do next after a page is successful. And we were talking about maybe opening it up and seeing what we want to do keyword research wise for the next stage. Is that a summary of kind of what we talked about?
Yeah. And I didn't have time to go through and do more keyword research.
Yeah.
But we actually have our marketing meeting tomorrow, and part of what we're going to go off of is our weekly analytics report and what our consistently higher landing pages are, and then kind of go off of that, because that's where we started with this topic. So because we've been getting higher landings on like adult services and stuff like that, I think we're going to try to focus on those topics, since they're obviously without doing keyword research, they're obviously triggering a response because people are landing on that page instead of our homepage. So kind of looking at the search terms that are going in for that, and then expanding on those, especially the ones that are directly related to services, because then the assumption is it'll be a higher customer turnover.
Exactly. And that's a great strategy, but don't forget the stuff that only shows you what you're getting traffic for now, not what you could be getting traffic for that you're missing out on.
Yeah,
right?
we're also next week, another operations coordinator is going to be starting, which is the same title I have, and she also has some experience in website and SEO and stuff, so I'm excited for her to get started, and to start that collaboration, because I'm a firm believer in 2 heads are better than 1, and especially with, she doesn't have as much experience on the clinical side as I do, but she has more experience on the tech side. So I think that we're going to be a good team, being able to kind of take that information.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to get started with her and see what she has to say about her website and about her SEO strategy, and what her thoughts are on marketing and keyword research and all of that.
Yeah. Great. yeah, that'll be great to have a second head around to kind of help with that.
Yes, most definitely.
Good. That's exciting. That sounds like growth.
Yeah, especially because when I talk about like these meetings with the rest of my team, like they're like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, I know, I wouldn't have 6 months ago either. So it'll be nice to have someone who speaks as much as I am not fluent in this, at least she speaks a little bit of that same language. You know,
Good.
possible, like enough to travel through the country, kind of
Good.
fluency. Yeah.
Good. Lavani, how's your new site doing?
Oh, she's on mute.
I know I put her on the spot. She wasn't ready.
It's doing okay. I haven't checked it in the last week or two as far as the visitors. Actually, wait, last time I checked it was 247 for the month. That's it.
That's great. What do you think is your next step to help promote your site?
I guess writing blogs, because I still have some that I need to get out to 2 different platforms I haven't got to yet.
Good. Good. That's gonna be great.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you've built the landing pages out, promoting the services that you offer pretty clearly?
Yeah, I think so.
So then, yeah, then, following the process after you do that, doing the blogging is a great way to promote those. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually, I guess on my list, but I do a weekly newsletter. And so because I didn't have my site to put anything on, I was just doing my newsletter and then social media posting about it. But what I'm probably going to do now is then, have that be my blog post and then have the email go to it. So what it'll be tomorrow that I send it out. So I'll be talking about my the article that mentioned me. So, and then that'll be a good thing to have on my website. So yeah. And then, yeah.
I swear the only reason I send a monthly email is so I make sure I at least write a blog post a month.
Yeah. Yeah. I also, when I sent last week, sent an email note, like, announcing my new website. I got an email back about a guest blog post. So on someone else's.
Awesome.
So yeah.
That's
I
great.
just had to remove myself from our mailing list because I was on the mailing list with 3 different email addresses. So every time the email went out, I got it on my personal, my professional, and my work email. And I was like, I control our MailChimp account. Why am I doing this? Like, so I went in and removed myself. So it's just my work email because I was like, every month I'm like, why do I get this email 3 times? And I'm the one in charge of it. So
3, I think I get about 7 of mine because mine's MailChimp too. And I whenever I do something, I test it. And it's like, I get kind of frustrated because I have to test it with a new email. Well, I've tested so many things. It's like 9 email addresses in there.
Well, my problem is I signed up before I worked for them. And then I signed up somehow again when I first got hired, but with my resume email address. And then when you start working, your work email address automatically gets it. And I'm like, ugh. Driving myself crazy.
Yep.
At least you do know it's going out.
Yeah.
It improves your open rate.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
I know. I make sure I open all
rating and it was bad on MailChimp. I had 2 stars, rarely interact.
Get rid of this subscriber. They don't interact with us.
No wonder.
Yeah, I'm kind of superstitious about it. No one cares about my open rate but me, but I still open my own emails. That's terrible. That's vain. That's narcissism, isn't it?
Yeah. I did have a little bit of an issue, and it probably is impacted probably my analytics for the first couple of days. A week before my site launched, I had a whole kind of technical meltdown. My computer broke, all kinds of stuff. So I got a new laptop, and I don't know, when I installed Chrome on it, like everything just, it was weird, like all my extensions. So Ghostery, I was having a problem with that, and I ended up like not having any extensions on it at all. So I know I was getting myself going to my website for the first week. I finally figured it out, and there was a problem with an extension I was using that was actually blocking me from being able to edit my WordPress site.
Oh, wow.
Like,
Wow.
yeah, I could log into my dashboard, and then once I got there and I clicked on, okay, go into Beaver Builder and edit it, that just like, it was like, and the site was just like, they are not editing it. And it was a plugin, but of course I had to go through every single plug. It was not fun. But so the first week, my analytics I know are going to be skewed because I kept going to it.
Yeah.
And Ghostery wasn't active.
Yeah.
But you know.
So you made a note in your Google Analytics notes section, so you remember, right?
That's yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
That way you can go back and be like, oh, that's why that's all so big and janky.
Yes. Okay. Saturday was the 13th. Okay.
Well,
Yeah. It came up with all these weird things. It kept like Ghostery. It did not do this the last time that I had Ghostery, but like I had to send them an email and ask them how to deal with it. It kept popping this purple thing up at the bottom right.
oh yeah, that's a setting. Yeah.
Oh, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I'm like, where's the setting? How do I get rid of this? How do I fix it?
Yeah.
And so yeah, finally I got that resolved. But I was thinking Ghostery might have been my problem, and thankfully it was not. So
Yeah, I recommend it because it's a pretty stable plugin. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, yeah, but I need accountability from all of you to make sure that I'm going through my own process for my own sites.
okay.
So I, for instance, got asked by a client to do some keyword research, and I literally went through my own keyword research process just to force myself to do it and follow the process to see if I needed to add anything to it or subtract it. But even for whether it's Curious Answer or my main site, Reliable Acorn, I still need to be following the process.
Mhm.
And so I feel like I could use all of your help keeping me accountable to make sure I follow the next step as well. Otherwise, what I do is end up just getting distracted by whatever's coming on, and I'm not making progress on my own site.
I wonder what I meant to ask you. Since I have to write 3 different blogs
Yeah.
and doing keyword research, do you take the most competitive keyword, or you try to go off of the keyword that's less competitive?
So in the keyword research process, I actually share a formula, an Excel formula I use, which calculates something called opportunity, which is really considering not just the number provided by Google, which shows competition, and not just the number that shows search volume, but compares them together in a way where you can say, because sometimes people search for a phrase more often, but just because a lot of people search for it doesn't mean it's a phrase that I want to show up for, because it could be that people are searching for it, has nothing to do with my business. But other times I don't want to go with the most competitive either, because that might not be realistic for me to hit. For instance, I will never rank for SEO, right? I'm just
Right.
never going to do it. But I might be able to learn from rank for Learn SEO online.
Mhm.
And that might be a little more reasonable goal.
Yeah.
Just to go. So in the keyword research process, I share a formula that can help you because you're Lavanya, you're right in thinking we should use data to let us know which keywords to focus on. So we're not just guessing blind.
Mhm.
That I want to commend you for your question, because that assumes you're using data. But use the data to help you determine which ones you should go for. And then you need, the answer becomes a happy balance. Obviously, if you go for things that aren't competitive, that very few people are searching for, it's not going to move the needle very much.
Right.
But if you go only for the things that have a lot of people searching for and are very competitive, boy, you're going to get very frustrated very quick.
Okay.
And, one of the things to do, I really like to do, once I do the keyword research, determine what every page is focusing on, optimize it. I come back to it later and I look at and see what Search Console is serving the page up for. Excuse me, let me use English. For which the phrases for which Google is serving the page.
Okay.
Because that could be very different than the keyword research words. So I wrote that in the process for optimizing a page, or I think it's under keyword research for a specific page is the process. So if you go in there, it shows you how to use the Google Search Console data to see which phrases Google is serving your page. And from there, you can see which impressions, meaning how many people saw your page searching for a phrase,
Mhm.
clicks, how many people clicked after seeing it, and then rank, meaning where it tends to rank, because rank is an average, not a real number. And so what I'll do is I'll go in and say, okay, usually it's pretty small numbers, but that's okay. 2 or 3 people clicked for this phrase and it ranks 10. Oh, I wonder if I re-optimize the page for this new phrase, I can make it rank better than 10. Go ahead and change the page focus. So go through the process. Title tag change to make sure it includes the keyword. Make sure the keyword's on the page a few times, just best practices for optimization. And then come back in a couple months and see, well, now what is it ranking for?
Okay.
Maybe it's the same phrase and maybe it's ranking a little better. And now I'm starting to get more clicks because I found a phrase that is even better for my customers than my initial keyword research might have found.
Okay.
So great question. And go to the keyword, go into the process and go in, and what I'll suggest you do is every couple months go back to a page and redo the research on that page specifically. Not the overview keyword research process, but the on-page keyword research process. And that laser focuses you on the topic and might help you determine, could there be a better phrase?
Okay.
And hopefully that will help you determine what you should be working on.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope it helps.
Yeah, it did.
Okay. Well, any other thoughts before we conclude our day? No? All right, well, then we will conclude by singing Ellie happy birthday. Have you ever experienced a song over Zoom?
No.
It's pretty terrible because Zoom does not sync up everybody at the same time.
Ooh,
Ah,
okay.
So it's kind of a train wreck,
oh, wow.
Love train wrecks.
especially if we're off tune
Uh-oh.
and if we can't sing.
Extra good. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
So we're gonna, oh my, she's already bored.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was up late finishing a book last night. I didn't go to bed till like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my gosh. Wow. All right. Well, then we have to sing extra loud.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just lower my volume. It's okay.
Oh, so let's attempt a train wreck for Allie's
Okay.
birthday. All right. Are you ready? We're gonna sing her happy birthday. Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to you. Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
dear
dear
Abby.
Abby.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
rough.
I should have
Thank you
brought
all
my
very
guitar
much.
out. Well, happy
We probably
birthday,
scared
Allie.
Pickles away with that.
Yeah, that's
He's
right.
got cold and he can't hear it. So
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
The transcriber's going to have a good time with that one too.
Oh, yes.
benefits of having a deaf dog.
Everybody take care.
Thank
Bye.
Have a great
you.
week.
Later.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.